All right, as we can see, Ryan Bowman has joined us. We will go ahead and let you get your hands raised to ask a question for Ryan. Look through the list here. We'll get going with, we'll start with Chris Fetters, and Lauren Kirschman will be on deck. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Ryan, I was just curious. With Joe gone now, it really looks like it's kind of your room now in terms of being the leader, the senior, the guy that everyone's going to look to. How does that kind of maybe change things for you a little bit and maybe up the stakes for you?
I wouldn't say it changes much. I mean, last year's me and Joe were kind of leading the group, and then now with all the young guys that we have, it's kind of a cool thing to see because all the dudes that we have a lot of potential. So there's not fall off in the group. It's like we got Joe gone, Joe's doing his thing. We still got a ton of guys that can play, so it doesn't really change anything, honestly.
All right, we'll go to Lauren Kirschman. Mike Farrell's on deck. Go ahead, Lauren.
You mentioned the young guys. You've got some new guys in the room, incoming freshmen. What's kind of stood out to you about those guys?
They all work tremendously hard, and they're just like the other guys that we've always had. I mean, that's the type of dudes that Coach K brings in. So there's no fall off. All of them work hard, and all of them are always trying to get better. There's nobody that's slacking. There's nobody that's not working as hard as another guy. So we all got a bunch of dudes with an eighth grade mentality. It's what we talk about here is always trying to absorb information and learn new things. So we're pretty fortunate to have all those dudes be like that, not have any slackers in the group.
All right, we'll go to Mike Farrell. Anthony's after him. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Ryan. I'm just curious, you do so many different things in your role. How do you define kind of what your role is with this team and what's the next step for you in your final season here?
I'm just a defensive lineman, honestly. I'll play any position on the line and always try to make things happen and always try to be explosive wherever I'm at. So you could literally put me anywhere. And that's just for the next step for me. That's just setting the table to be able to play anything on the D line.
All right, we'll go to Anthony Edwards. Ruth is on deck. Go ahead, Anthony.
Hey, Ryan, during your guys' time off, how did you really stay focused on football throughout that whole thing?
Just knowing that at any moment things could change and we could be back in this building, back practicing, back working out. So just to make sure that nothing changes routine-wise was the main focus. So just lifting weights, practicing football agility, practicing football technique, and just nonstop sticking in the routine. Because if we fell off on any routine, we wouldn't be as prepared coming back in here. So just making sure we stick in our routine and act like tomorrow everything could change. We'd be back in the building.
All right, we'll go to Ruth. Ruth will be followed by Nicholas. Go ahead, Ruth.
And your story is a success story. I mean, you came in, you went over to Florida to IMG to do your senior year. You got the preferred walk-on opportunity. You came to UW. You got the scholarship. Now you've been starting for a couple of years. I mean, what would you tell a guy coming in that was a walk-on and tell him, here's what you need to do to get to this point? I mean, what would be your advice?
I would say regardless of everything, always maintain confidence in yourself because there's a lot of outside noise. There's a lot of people that talk. Coaches might not mess with you as much at first. So you always have to maintain confidence in yourself and your own abilities and always strive to get better every day. And you have to look at it from the standpoint like, I may be a fourth string guy right now, but I'm going to come in here with the best attitude possible and just try to get better. So if you act like that every day, stuff starts to change.
All right, we'll go to Nicholas at the Daily, followed by Chris Fetters, then Maz. Go ahead, Nicholas.
Yeah, as an anchor of the front seven now, especially without Tron and Unzurike, what have you seen from some of the not just the younger guys, but returning guys like Thule and some of the other younger players?
I'd say that everyone's a lot more vocal. There's a ton of energy. Guys are really excited to make names for themselves, and that's exciting for me. To be with those guys in the line. It's like we got a lot of guys that are really hungry. So, I mean, that's exciting for me, and that should be exciting for all you guys as well. We got the guys that are truly ready to make names for themselves.
All right, we'll go to Fetters, followed by Masvita, then Lauren, then Varel. Go ahead, Fetters.
Hey, Ryan, again, it just was also real curious. You mentioned some of those guys. I know there's a lot of people that are out there trying to get some information on how Savell has looked so far, especially being a local guy coming through. What have you seen from a guy like Savell, a young guy?
Yeah, he looks great, and he's a dude that is trying to get better. He asks questions. He's got a good mentality. It's like guys like that always elevate, so like regardless, and he's got all the tools, so he'll be a great player for sure.
All right, Masvita, then Lauren. Go ahead, Mas.
Sure. Hey, Ryan, I'm just wondering if you've given, some thought into your leadership, just because obviously you are and you have been. Is there anything you think about that, or has just become natural for you right now? And what legacy would you like to leave as a leader of this team, on and
I
off?
I say it comes natural. And just being the oldest guy in the room right now, it's a lot of young guys in there. And the legacy I want to leave is that we're the most physical dudes on the team. We want to be real hard-nosed, bad, nasty dudes. Like, that's just how we're all going to be in that room. So, I mean, under Coach K, it's easy to be like that, because that's the mentality that he brings, and we manifest off that energy, and all our dudes are like that. So that's the legacy I'd like to leave for outside backers. And just as a leader, just be nasty as hell.
All right. We'll go to Lauren and then Mike Farrell after Lauren. Go ahead, Lauren.
I was just wondering, I mean, with the offseason, the way that it was and all of the uncertainty, did you feel a responsibility as an older guy to make sure that these younger guys were getting ready and were prepared? And how did you kind of do that when you're in a situation with a lot of virtual work and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, when guys are young, there's tons of distractions. And with the uncertainty, like you said, it's like dudes don't know when we're going to be back in the building. But, like, as a leader, we just get together and make sure we're hanging out all the time as a unit. So we'll be hanging out all the time as a unit. Every time we're hanging out, we're working out, we're training, we're doing pass rush, whatever. And we're hanging out, too. Like, we're doing fun stuff. We're not just all football business. It helps to maintain dudes, being focused, remaining focused. So it helps us hang out all the time, and we're working out, but we're also having fun and doing a mix of that. So it helped us all stay focused and stick in a routine.
All right. We'll go to Mike Farrell, followed by Christian. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Ryan, you mentioned the phrase eighth grade mentality, and I was wondering if you could kind of break down what that means.
Yeah, so Coach Pete talked about it a lot earlier, and it's about just how an eighth grader is always trying to learn, absorb information and learn new things. Like, they're going into high school. It's like, oh my God, I want to learn how to do this, how to do that. Like, what's this like next year? So Coach Pete always talked about when we come in, we have to have an eighth grade mentality. It's like, no matter how much you think you might know, you always got to absorb more information. You always got to be ready to absorb new things and new techniques and have an open mindset to take coaching. So that eighth grade mentality is all the dudes in the room are always ready to learn, and nobody's like acting offended when a coach tells them to fix something or when they don't do something right. So it helps when everyone's like that, because then everyone is always just striving to get better. No one has an ego about it. So it's eighth grade mentality is just absorbing information and trying to get better every day.
All right. Our last question, unless we get another raised hand, will be from Christian Capel. Go ahead, Christian.
Hey, Ryan, obviously you guys play two outside linebackers at a time a lot. I'm just curious if you could describe the differences between those two positions and how they might be similar also.
Yeah, so typically we're in the nickel formation. In our nickel formation, we have a jack and we have an X. The jack usually plays on the strong side, and the X plays on the weak side. And typically the X is the guy that will be dropping in coverage more often, and the jack will be the more of like the defensive end type, like potentially goes into a three tech. But they're more like the defensive end, and then X is more of an outside linebacker archetype.
All right, we do have another question from Chris Fetters. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Ryan, also talking about another guy that came in, true freshman, Jordan Lolohea. Really curious to see what you think of him so far.
Yeah, I love Jordan. I love his mentality, and he's definitely one of those dudes just like Chevelle that tries to get better every day with an open mindset. And, it's like every day those dudes are just building bricks. And it's exciting to see truly, because, it would suck to have dudes that aren't trying to get better with bad mentalities and like big egos, but that's the opposite of what we got. So it's perfect. We got Jordan's always trying to get better. Chevelle's trying to get better. We got Cooper McDonald, who's also doing really well. He's really good. So it's pretty a bright future for the outside linebacker room as well, I say.
And we do have one more question from Kim Grinolds. Go ahead, Kim.
Hey, Shane, can you update us? Ryan, can you update us on what's going on with Shane? And also, you're up to 280. Can you tell us a little bit about the weight gain? Was that something you wanted to do? How'd you do that? And how do you feel at that weight?
I'll talk about Shane first. He's doing really well. He's working a sales job. So he loves doing that. And as long as he loves doing that, then that's fine. After the XFL got shut down and then they announced that this season wouldn't be coming back for a while, it's like, you got to get to work. You can't just sit around and do nothing. So he really likes what he's doing, though. So that's good for him. And then about the weight, it's just I want to be looked at as a guy that can play inside, because that's where I feel most comfortable and where I can make the most impact. And being at 280, that helps me become that type of archetype. And I feel great at this, too. It's like no drop off, because I had to lose. I was initially heavy, but I was fat. So I had to lose a bunch of fat and then slowly build muscle on my body to change my whole body composition. So doing that over this COVID quarantine really assisted with me getting my body right and doing that. So I feel great, and I feel ready to make an impact at that position.
All right, that's it for Ryan Bowman. We do appreciate you taking the time here today, Ryan. Thank you very much. We'll be
Thank
back
you.
with Elijah in a minute. Get ready to go. And there he is. Make sure we're good to go. Yep, there he is. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Let me hit my recording, unpause it, and we will start with Lauren. She'll be followed by Ruth Robbins, then Mike Farrell. Go ahead when you are ready, Lauren.
Hi, Elijah. I was just wondering, obviously Trent McDuffie had a really strong freshman season. What have you been able to see from him as far as growth, and what have you seen from him over these early days of camp here?
Yeah, I trust my guy. Trent's he's a really laid back, kind of calm and collected player and person really off the field too. And I think that's probably his strongest attribute. So just really, I mean, he's been doing what he's always been doing. It's just going out there and making plays, refining his craft and whatnot. But he's someone I really enjoy playing with.
All right, we'll go to Ruth Robbins. She'll be followed by Mike Farrell and then Chris Fetters. Go ahead, Ruth.
Elijah, we've all talked a lot about, because Jimmy's the head coach now, but Jimmy, like the maker of DBU, the great secondary coach. But what are you getting from Will Harris and Terrence Brown in terms of them taking the torch from Jimmy and coaching you up to the next level?
Yeah, it's for sure a different dynamic, especially because we have, Coach Harris and Coach TB. So instead of having one coach, now it's more a duo, which is really nice because they both offer different critiques and give different feedback. So really, I can go to one coach and I can go to the other one, and they'll give me new information to apply to my game. But really, what they've been so good at is just giving energy to practice. And we always say, like, the defense runs through our room, runs through the DB room, and really, the whole team runs through our room. That's what we feel like. So every day we go out there, and that's our main focus.
Sorry about that. He froze up on my computer. I hope he didn't on everybody else's. We'll go to Mike Farrell, followed by Chris Fetters, and then Dan Rayleigh. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Elijah, different kind of question for you. I know during the pandemic, you were reading a ton. You could see that on social media. And I'm wondering what books meant the most to you or impacted you the most, and why?
That's a good question. That's part of the reason why I wanted to put on my story the books I've read, is just so, first of all, I can keep track and I can kind of look back and remember what I learned from it, and also so other people could, check out cool books that I'm interested in. But I'd probably say I really like the book 4 Agreements and also Shoe Dog. Those are probably my top 2 books that I've read. And honestly, I can't remember other ones at the moment, but that's something that I really wanted to spend my time off doing, because I didn't want to just, sit at home on my couch and kind of waste the quarantine time away.
All right, we'll go to Chris Fetters. He'll be followed by Dan Rayleigh, then Christian. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Elijah, I saw a stat the other day where Washington, I think, has held their opponents to 35 points or less in 71 straight games. I think the next best in FBS is 19, if I remember right. Obviously, it predates you for sure, but I'm kind of curious for your perspective, considering how many players you guys put in the NFL year after year defensively. What's allowed you guys to stay so consistent in keeping teams out of the end zone?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing is probably we call it shoot awareness. So every defender has a responsibility in the run fit. And if you let someone slip outside of your run fit, then that's when big plays happen. So I think it just comes down to discipline, especially in tackling. And then also on the back end too, we take pride in not giving up any big plays. We're trying to limit those as much as possible. So really, like, the offense has to earn it whenever they play against us.
All right, we'll go to Dan Rayleigh, followed by Christian, and then Anthony. Go ahead, Dan.
Hi, Elijah. Jimmy Lake has said that the 4 freshman defensive backs coming in are so skilled that they might play early. Which one of those guys has shown you a skill that's made you go, wow?
Yeah, that's a good question. they're all very talented. I probably have my eyes on Case and Kinchin the most, just because he's nickel, and I've kind of taken him under my wing. And I think he's shown flashes of like Miles Bryant, kind of, is what KT and I have been talking about and whatnot. So I think he'll have a really bright future, and especially since, this season is kind of, it won't affect his eligibility at all. So he can really learn a lot.
All right, we'll go to Christian Capel, followed by Anthony. Those are all the hands we have. Just one more came up. So go ahead, Christian.
Hey, Elijah, obviously you've practiced against your offensive teammates for 3 years and now going into your fourth now. Curious if there are guys on the offensive side of the ball who maybe haven't seen the field a lot yet, who you've been impressed by and in practice early this season, and also if any of the offensive newcomers, particularly at receiver, have stood out to you so far.
Yeah, I think Austin Osborne, AO, he's really had a good camp so far. Also Rome, the freshman, he's been making some plays. I think, and I talked to Coach June Adams about, the receiving group. He comes up to me all the time and kind of, asks what I think about how their room is doing. And really they're getting better every day. And I think they have a lot of weight on their shoulders just because they're young and they don't have that many guys in the room compared to the DB room. We have like 25 guys in the room. So every day they know that, they got to show up and make it easy for the quarterback.
All right, we will go to Anthony Edwards, followed by Masvita. Go ahead, Anthony.
Hey, Elijah, you mentioned a couple weeks ago that the lack of a spring camp might affect the younger guys this year, but how have you seen them bounce back over the past week or two?
Can you ask that question again?
Yeah, just how have the young guys responded to this like quick change in the fall camp without the lack of a spring camp,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They've been doing a good job. I'm not sure what to say. Yeah, that's all.
That's okay. Let's go to Masvita, followed by Fetters, and then Nicholas. Go ahead, Mas.
Yeah, hey Elijah. Just want to ask a little bit about leadership. You just talked about the coach comes to you, assessing the wide receivers, and there's 25 players in the room, and you're reading. Just how present are you to your leadership? And obviously, is that important to you? Something you think about?
Yeah, I think so. And I think in order to be a leader, I can't focus too much. Like at the end of the day, I got to do my job too. So as long as I hold myself accountable, then I can hold other people's accountable. But really, I'm not the only leader on the team for sure. There's young guys like, Laiatu is someone that comes to mind as a leader, even though he's a redshirt freshman. But there's guys all over both sides of the ball that show attributes of leadership. But really, it all comes from coaching and kind of, top down. So if they're telling us to do the right thing and our young guys are hearing good things from the coaches, but then also when they hear from the players also holds a different kind of weight.
All right, we'll go to Chris Fetters, followed by Nicholas. Go ahead, Chris.
Elijah, you mentioned the nickel spot and Case and Kinchin, and obviously with Miles no longer there, is it simply just your job to kind of pick up the torch where he left off and be that guy, or is there more to it in terms of maybe passing down the information that maybe he passed down to you?
Oh yeah, no doubt. And Miles was that player for me who he took me under his wing and taught me a lot about the position, and especially at nickel, there's a lot of complexities to that position. So that's what I've been helping Kaysen with, and really it's a lot I'm putting on his plate, and coaches are putting on his plate, just because at that position you have to kind of command the defense. But he's doing a really good job of handling that pressure, certainly better than I did my freshman year. And kind of like what I said about Trent McDuffie, how Trent's he has a calm personality. I see the same in Kaysen.
All right, barring any additional hands going up, we'll end this with Nicholas. Oh, we just had another one go. So Nicholas and then Masvita. Go ahead, Nick.
Hey, yeah. Speaking of the defensive backfield, Asa Turner is a guy that might have a larger role this year. Can you just talk a little bit about what you've seen from him so far?
Yeah, Asa, he's the player who's immediately after practice, he stays on the field and gets extra reps. And then right after that, he goes to the weight room and gets some extra sets or whatever. So he's got that obsession that I think every great player has to have. So I think this year he'll have a really big year, and a couple years from now he's gonna be making some money.
All right, we'll go to Masvita, then Chris Fetters. Go ahead, Maz.
Yeah, just actually on that note, today's Sunday. You could have been down at Century Link playing. Just how much fun are you having playing football right now down at Husky Stadium?
So much fun, really, and that's something that when I talk to guys like Nick Harris and Trey Adams and Miles, that they always said like really take for granted your last year of college football because stuff changes in the NFL. So I've been trying to soak it all up and really just take every day, one day at a time and enjoy myself, play the game that I love.
All right, we'll wrap things up with Chris Fetters. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Elijah, also real quick, obviously we haven't seen much of you guys so far. But when we do see the updated heights and weights for fall camp, you see a guy like Dom Hampton at 220, and was curious on your take of Dominique and where you see him fitting in this fall, especially if that weight's correct.
He's probably 215. I think he'll get angry if you say he's 220. But I think one thing that people might not know about Dom is he's really fast. Like he clocks like 22 miles per hour. And I'll compete with him on those speed days. But he's really refining his craft that corner. And then also I think when he takes the next step and starts to learn different positions, then he'll be, we'll able to utilize him in numerous roles. But yeah.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much for your time, Elijah. We appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in.